Hello there, my name is Aaron Kolker, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can create some dynamic highlights and masks in ArcGIS Online. So what I've got here are two layers. I've got a point data set of cities, and I've also got this smoke forecast from the National Weather Service. It is prescribed fire season down here in the southeast, and in Florida we do a lot of controlled burns trying to create some, for example, healthy longleaf pine and wiregrass ecosystems. And that generates a lot of smoke. And so what I would like to do, and what you saw at the beginning of this video, is I would like to dynamically highlight the cities that are within these smoke forecast zones. And we can do that using groups, blend modes, and a little bit of trickery. So what we need to do first is we need to take a look at both of our layers. We need a layer of features that we're going to highlight, which in my case is the cities, and then we need a layer for the areas that we want to highlight those features in. In my case, I'm using a vector polygon layer. Mine happens to be time enabled, but that's just for demonstration purposes in this video. Yours does not need to be. You can also use a imagery or raster layer if you'd like. Just anything that has sort of an aerial coverage will work for this. And if we look at the settings for this smoke forecast, you can ignore what's happening on the map right now. If I go to my styles and look at what's happening in here, I put on this kind of this gray-blue color for the smoke and put it at a pretty high transparency level so that I could see what's underneath these smoke areas down in my base map. And then I gave it this thin red outline. And so the first thing we need to do is we want to create some duplicates of both of our layers. So you can go ahead and click the menu on the right of each layer, go to duplicate. I want to put both of these copies towards the top, and we're going to put both of them together in a group. So if you click the menu again and go to group, hit the drop down, drag in our other copy. And in our case, what we want is we want our areas to be highlighted, our polygon layer, our aerial coverage to be on top, and then the features that we're going to highlight to be below that within the group. I'm just going to go ahead and rename these real quick. And so now the first thing we need to do is we're going to go into our cities or whatever features you're going to be highlighting. We're going to go over on the right here and we're going to go to styles. I'm going to go to style options. I'm going to click on my symbol. And in my case, what we were doing in that video you saw earlier is I want to put a nice big red outline on the cities that are within these smoke areas. So I'm going to increase the outline width, set my outline color to red, hit done, hit done. We're not going to see anything happening yet. We're then going to go to our smoke. We're going to go to the properties tab up at the top right here. And here under appearance and blending, we're going to click this drop down. It should say normal by default. We're going to look for a section called compositing. And all of these blend modes here under compositing are the different type of masks you can do with the blend modes. So you can mask things above, mask things below. The best way to kind of figure out what each of these does is just to play around with them. In our case, we're going to be using destination in, which means the top layer is going to be masking the layers below and within it. And then in my case, because I have these transparent polygons, I need to do one more step. You'll see if I get rid of all this different time data, you might be seeing something like this if you're also using transparent polygons, where I can see a little bit of red coming through on these features, but it doesn't quite look like what we were going for yet. And that's because my mask layer here, it has a transparency just like the bottom one, where we had that 80% transparency on there. And the way these masks work is they work off the opacity. So if our layer is fully transparent, you're going to see it's doing some real weird stuff here. But if we bring our opacity all the way back up, we remove that transparency, now we can see that our highlights are working. So I'm going to click done, done. In my case, I'm going to re-enable this time data. And now you can see we've got that look we were going for. And what's great about this is if you don't have attributes in your data where you can just filter out these points, you could make a subset of points that are outside of the clouds, within the clouds, and give them a different symbology. If you don't have that, using these blend modes is kind of a really quick and easy way to visualize the intersection of these features. Now, the reason we put these two layers into their own group is the way that blend modes work is they only respect layers that are on kind of the same level within our table of contents. So anything outside of a group, the blend modes will apply downward onto each of these layers. But if we put them into a group, they will apply downward within the group, but not outside of it. And so by putting these two layers into their own group, we're not clipping our original smoke layer and our unhighlighted cities. You'll also notice that when you use destination in as one of your blend modes, it makes that polygon completely transparent because it's now acting fully as a mask and nothing else. And so that's why we have a copy of our smoke outside of the group as well. And so I think there are a lot of interesting ways you can use this. I first used this technique to highlight facilities that were in the path of a forecast cone for hurricanes, but any sort of dynamic data you have that is changing often, I think this works really well with. And again, data where you don't necessarily have the attributes needed to do a traditional filter. And so for another example to kind of show you how you can use this technique for masks, I've got this area for John Pennekamp State Park, and I've got a bunch of Acropora coral observations down here in the Florida Keys. And so let's say, for example, I was creating a story map. I have this really large coral observation data set, but I only want to show the coral that's within John Pennekamp. And I don't have an attribute in the coral data that I can easily filter out the points outside of the park boundaries. And so we can use masks to do a really quick visual filter. And again, we have the same exact setup. I have a copy of my area outside of the group. I have my features, in this case, my observations, in the bottom of a group. I have then another copy of the state park. And if we look at the settings for this, again, I have this set to destination in. So when I turn on, it hides all of those features outside of there. Now, one of the drawbacks to this technique you might have noticed is that if you have points on the edge of your masking area, they will get cut off, and that's because this is just a fully visual clip. And so this isn't going to work for all cases. There are going to be cases where this isn't a good solution. But one thing we can do to kind of help alleviate this issue is if we go into our masking group and we click on the mask and we go into the effects section, you'll see a bunch of effects here. If we turn on bloom, you'll see we get this kind of cool gradient, this gradient effect on our clip. And what the bloom does is it's sending out this sort of transparent gradient that is stronger towards the center of the polygon and fades off as it gets further away. And so if we play with these settings here a little bit, you can find something that prevents that clipped look, but it still brings a lot of the focus to your featured area. So that might be another option to use in conjunction with this. So I hope both of these tricks are helpful. There's a ton of stuff you can do with this, playing with the different effects and the different blend modes. Lots of different things you can do with these. And so I hope this gives you some ideas and you're able to apply them to your own projects. Thanks for watching. Bye.